This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. It's so great to have you joining me here in these online lessons. This is lesson 34 in this series that is all about jazz guitar. As you know, I love jazz guitar and I'm so delighted to bring this course to you. We're really working in a line upon line fashion, getting all the fundamentals in, and eventually we will explore so many different aspects of playing jazz guitar. Right now in the series, we're working on the classic, most go-to jazz voicings that us guitarists play. In the last lesson, so lesson 33, I walked you through a formula for creating voicings on the guitar in the jazz style. So really seventh chords, all the extensions, just a great way of looking at that. Now in this lesson and the next few lessons, we're going to work on mastering some of the different voicings that we tend to use on the guitar a lot. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at minor seventh chords, major seventh chords, and dominant seventh chords. Some great voicings for those using that formula that I explained in the last lesson. And we'll take those through comping around the circle of fourths. So let's go ahead and start with a little bit of theory here. So when we have major seventh chords, these are really known in theory terms as major seventh chords. These have the root, the major third, the perfect fifth, and the major seventh. So if I played that in first position on C, we would have a major seventh chord. The chord symbol for these has the root note, and then it's going to have something before the number 7 to tell us it's a major seventh. Whether it be M-A-J, a capital letter M, uppercase letter M, a triangle, or M-A, something in front of that seventh is going to tell us it's a major seventh chord. So that's our major seventh chord. Now we can have upper extensions. The 9th, the sharp 11, and the 13 are pretty common with this voicing type, this chord type, but in this lesson we're just going to work on having some voicings that have the root, the third, the fifth, and that major seventh. Comparatively, we have the minor seventh chord, which is in theory terms known as the minor seventh chord. This one has the root, the minor third, the perfect fifth, and the minor seventh. So root, flat 3, 5, flat 7. Root, flat 3, 5, and flat 7. It's kind of a stretch to play like that, but I can do that. Minor seventh chord. The chord symbol for this one is going to have the root, something telling us it's a minor chord, a minus sign, a lowercase m, and M-I-N, something M-I, telling us it's a minor chord, and then we're going to see the number 7, and we'll have that minor seventh chord. This one can also have upper extensions. The 9th, the 11th, the 13th are common options. We don't tend to alter those upper extensions on the minor seventh chord or the minor seventh chord, but we could. But we do have the 9th, 11th, and 13th. In this lesson, we're just going to focus on voicings that have that root, third, fifth, and seventh. So the root, the minor third, perfect fifth, and minor seventh. The other chord is the dominant seventh chord. Dominant really speaks to the function of this voicing type. This is a major minor seventh chord. So major seventh up here, major minor seventh here has the root, the major third, the perfect fifth, and the minor seventh or the flatted seventh. The chord symbol for this one is just going to have the root and then a seventh thrown on, or a number 9, 13, 7 sharp 11. It could have an upper extension in place of that 7. Note the difference between the major seventh and the dominant seventh. The major seventh has something in front of that 7th telling us it's major. Dominant seventh has something, it doesn't have anything in front of that 7, just the root and the 7 or another number. So root 3, 5, flat 7 versus root 3, 5, major 7. Now in jazz, this chord is most often played with an upper extension. So when we're playing pop and rock and folk and that style, those styles of music, Our most go-to chords are major and minor chords, though we will sometimes get dominant seventh chords pretty frequently. In jazz, our most go-to chords are the seventh chord level. Major seventh, minor seventh. We could have minor major seventh, which we'll learn in another lesson. We could have the minor sixth or major sixth chord, so we could have a sixth in place of the seventh. But our go-to chords have those colors. With the dominant seventh chord, it's already sort of a common sound in some of those other styles of music. In this style, we most often do throw colors on, whether it be a ninth, a 13th, or a sharp 11, and then we can have altered dominants, which we'll learn about and work on in other lessons as well. So in this lesson, I'm going to be throwing on the 9th or the 13th with the voicing types that we had. Those are the most common ones we had. So over here on the right side of the board then, I've got some voicings. I'm just going to demonstrate these right in the middle of the neck. We'll start with the major seventh, or the major seventh chord. So if I put my root on that 6th string there at the 6th fret, I'm going to have B flat major 7. If I finger this one, and up above I've written in what we have happening. We got the root, the 7, the 3, and the 5. So that's how that's voiced. We know from the previous lesson that we're going to have those guide tones on strings 3 and 4, and then we can have the 5th or a color on that 2nd string and on the top string. So we've got the 5th in the case of the voicings that we're working on in this lesson. So you want to get that one really comfortable. Note that your index finger is going to mute the 1st string and the 5th string if you strum it. So my index finger is pressing down that root at the 6th fret of the 6th string, and then it's just lightly collapsing on all the strings so that it will mute the 5th string and the top string. And then my middle, ring, and pinky fingers. Now, if you are familiar with bar chords and you were to play D minor, the D minor bar chord, which is the A minor shape, all you got to do is move your root to that B flat and you have that major seventh. So this is not a bar chord because we're not barring, but it is a movable shape. No open strings are used, so we can do B, C, C sharp, or D flat, D, and so on. So we've got nice B flat major 7 there. Let's take a look at the 5th string form. Now, with the 5th string form, we looked in the last lesson about with some that have the root, the 3rd, the 7th, but then to play the 5th, we'd have to come up to the high string. It's sort of an uncomfortable and unusual voicing to use. So we're using the alternate form, as I explained in the last lesson, where we're going to go root 5, 7, 3 with that major 7th shape. And I'm just going to demonstrate it right in the middle of the neck as well. So 6th fret, so E flat there on that 5th string. And you can go index, ring, middle, pinky. If you wanted to bar over, you could actually catch the 5th on top as well. We tend to play this just with those inside 4 strings, just like so. Now you can strum it as well. You want to practice going back and forth a little bit between these two voicings. What we're going to do is take them around the circle of fourths. We've used the circle of fourths a lot in this series, but if this is the first lesson you're jumping into, I've got it right up here on the board. It's a way of moving around all 12 keys, and we move by the interval of a perfect fourth. C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D, G, C. This is a great way to work voicings, especially when we got forms with the root on one string and then another form with a root on the next string. So like the 6th string form and the 5th string form, because we can move around the circle of fourths really easily with those strings. So if I start with C at the 8th fret of the 6th string, then I've got F at the 8th fret of the 5th string, B flat there at the 6th fret, E flat at the 6th fret, just switching strings, A flat at the 4th, D flat at the 4th. Then I can come up to G flat at the 10th, 9th, at the 9th fret, and then I come down for the B at the 7th, E at the 7th, then down to the 5th for A and D, down to the 3rd for G and C. We'll mostly keep these chords between frets 3 and 10 as we're comping. If we go higher or lower, we're just kind of getting into more of an extreme range, and we can do that. But we tend to comp more in the center of the fretboard there. When I say center, I'm really talking between frets 1 and 12. So we stay to the center. As we get higher and lower, sometimes it can get either a little bit high in the voicing sound or a little bit muddy as we get lower. So we tend to stay towards the center. So this works really great. Chord progressions often work through pieces of the circle of force as well. So this is a great thing for us to do. So what we'll do, you can just use your fingers and pluck, or you can strum. Just use a basic do-dot rhythm. Just like that. And we'll give each chord twice. So 2 measures. And we'll go on to the next one. Just like that. So we're going to have 1, a 2, a 1, 2. We have the C major 7. And then F. B flat. And E flat. And A flat. And D flat. Go to G flat. We're gonna have B. And we got E. We got A. We got D. We got G. And then we're back to C. That's a really great exercise to work with that one. If you need more time with that, take all the time that you need to. Here in the lesson though, I'm going to move on to the minor 7th chord. So with our 6th string form, and I'll demonstrate it right there on B flat again with my middle finger at the 6th fret. We've got the root, the flatted 7, the flatted 3rd, and then the 5th. The way that I finger this one is with my middle finger on the root, and then I bar across that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th string. And then my middle finger goes ahead and mutes the top string, although I could bar over and catch the root on top. My ring finger can also just lightly touch and mute that top string, and then but my middle finger has to catch the 5th string. So if I'm strumming, I don't hear that 2nd string or that top string. That's how I play it. If you're used to playing like the A-shaped bar chords, then you're putting that ring finger down and then just moving your middle finger over. I do it this way because when I'm going to the 5 chord in that dominant fashion with the one that we're going to learn here, it moves really nice. There's other transitions that work well. I also can grab the 9th on top if I wanted to do that. So that's the reason I finger it that way. Sometimes I have students that finger it other ways, but that's the way that I recommend fingering that. So I'm going to get comfortable with that one and then take a look at the 5th string form. My middle finger is at the 6th fret, and so I'm going to do E flat minor here. I'm barring in this case, and we've gone back also using the alternate form as I explained in the last lesson. We got the root, the 5, the flatted 7, and the flatted 3rd there. I bar across. If you're used to playing the minor bar chord shape, the A minor bar chord shape, you're just pulling your pinky off. Now, I'm not really playing the top string, though you could catch the extra 5th up there, but we tend not to. So you want to get comfortable with that one. That one is actually a bar chord shape there. So once you can do that, you want to be able to go back and forth between the two. Now we'll go around the circle of force using these 2 forms, doing 2 chords on each one of those. So you got 1, starting with the C minor with the root at the 8th fret, 6th string. So you got 1, a 2, a 1, 2. We got the C minor 7. Then F minor, B flat, and E flat, and A flat, and D flat, and G flat, and B, and E, and A, and D, and G, and we end there on C. So take as much much time as you need to with those two voicings. Here in the lesson, I'm going to take a look at the dominant 7th one. So with this first one, I'm going to put my root back at the 6th string, so demonstrate this with B flat and on that 6th fret. With this one, we're throwing the 13 in. So I've got root, flat 7, 3, and 13. We don't have the 5th in there. From the last lesson, we learned that we can have a color or the 5th. If I had the 5th, it would actually be here. So it's great to know how to play that one, but we tend to comp more adding these colors onto the dominant 7th chord, so I thought I'd just jump right in to getting that happening here in this lesson. So that dominant 13 there, pretty comfortable shape to grab. Once you've got that one down, let's take a look at the 5th string form, and I'll put it there at the 6th fret of that 5th string. We've got the dominant, the root 3, flat 7, and then we're throwing the 9 on top. Now you can just use your pinky and finger it middle, index, ring, and pinky, or you can lay that flat, which is what I usually do, because that gives me the option to reach up for the 13 if I decide to later, and I have the 5th on the top string as well. Sometimes I will finger it just like so as well. So I'm going to get comfortable going back and forth between those two, and then we'll go ahead and take that around the circle of fourths. So starting there with C13, and then we'll have F9 and E flat 13, E flat 9, and so on. So you got 1, a 2, a 1, 2, ready, and C13. Then the F9, B flat. We got the E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D, G, and C. Okay, so that gets you started. Now working through the circle of fourths like that is a great thing to do. Before I end this lesson, I want to point out something about chord symbols and these types of chords. A lot of times when we're reading music, the chord symbols will just be written at the 7th level. But so we could read C7 and then choose to play C13 or C9. Alternatively, we could see C9 and choose to play C13, or C13 and choose to play C9. Chord symbols are really technically not specific, though sometimes when we're playing in big band music or music where the chord symbols are going to specifically reference or relate to maybe what's happening in a horn section, then sometimes we need to play things that are going to make sure to work with what might be working in the horn section. So generally 13ths and 9ths can be easily interchangeable, but a sharp 11 sound might have a bit more tension and might not fit as well. So some of those things we have to use our ear and be aware of. Now with the major 7th chord, then we could see this major 7th as written and decide to throw on the 9th or the 13th, for example. We could see the 9 in place of there. Same thing with the minor 7ths. We could see those. We're going to work on those in future lessons. So in the next lesson, we're actually going to take these chords and put them together into 2-5-1 progressions and practice with a couple different chord progressions that are great to work on so we can further master it. Because we a lot of times when we're playing these chords, we'll actually play the voicings from one to another in a piece of that circle of fourths, but more often we play things in 2-5-1s. We see that kind of progression all the time in jazz, various pieces of it. So we're going to work on that in the next lesson with these voicings, and we'll add one more voicing to the game as well as we continue to move forward. So it's going to be great. Keep having fun with the guitar. Take care, and we'll see you again. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more in-depth lessons and to progress through a free guitar course, check out my Guitar 101 series on YouTube and my guitar method books, which all come with access to hours of in-depth video lessons. You can find more information about me and my products at KristenBromley.com. Take care.